You see, making a good armor set is like making a good tomato sauce. You need 7 tomatoes, 3 onions, some butter, olive oil, garlic, salt, and sugar. Bring it to a boil, then reduce the heat to low and simmer. I was just wondering what helmet to wear. Ladies, gentlemen, and monsters of all ages, people are progressing further and further into Monster Hunter Wilds, and one of the questions I keep getting from people is, what armor should you wear? What equipment should you use for each step of the game? Well, we already covered low rank in previous videos and some basics around how the skills work, so today we're going to hyper-focus on high rank. I'm going to walk you through the generally best sets for each stage of high rank based on when you unlock them, as well as some general recommendations for weapons. Disclaimer here that what I'm going to talk about are just really highly generalized armor sets, meaning that they should work for most, if not all, weapons to a very high standard. I'll mention some alternate options of specific types of weapons that prefer different specific skills as well, but to put it simply, I wouldn't say most people need to full min-max everything before you unlock the final bits of armor through the high rank story. Starting off then, a quick shout out to the Melding Pot NPC. In high rank you'll be able to craft specific decorations, and while the list will expand when you eventually reach HR 100, that's quite a bit down the line. For now though, you will be able to meld the majority of 1-slot skill decorations in the game, and this importantly includes things like Constitution and Marathon Runner. For the more stamina heavy weapons in the game, it's a really big deal. That said, as we go through armor sets, I won't be telling you what to put in your decoration slots because everyone's decoration collection will be different, so that part is up to you. However, you want to customize it to fit your weapon or get some comfort in some way too. Speaking of weapons then, it's a lot harder to give a generalized recommendation for weapon progression than it is for armor, but generally speaking, for the start of high rank, a good weapon for most types is the Rathian tree. You can start to find Rathians as soon as you have finished the introductory high rank quest with the Yonkut Ku, and her weapons have equivalent raw attack to the Hope tree on same rarity, but with 15% bonus affinity, decent sharpness, and poison status for some extra passive damage too. The skills that are on this, for most weapons at least, probably won't matter much to most people as it has crit status for a lot of weapons, which isn't a big deal, especially when you don't have much crit, but poison duration up is another decent passive damage increase. That said, the only weapons that have the same smooth progression curve of attack, sharpness, and bonus affinity all have one glaring negative somewhere within them that makes them worse than this in my opinion, and the ones with better skills have either 0% affinity or possibly even negative affinity, so Rathian tends to come out on top for that crit chance. That said, this applies to most but not all weapon types. Some weapons don't have Rathian trees to begin with, and some just have unique quirks worth considering too. For most weapons that don't have a Rathian option, I recommend Lala Barina, decent attack, good affinity, and paralysis creates free damage windows. This also applies to Switch Axe, which does have a Rathian option, but it's an element file poison weapon, as opposed to Lala Barina being a more raw focused weapon with paralysis as well. Hammer specifically has a better option in the Nursilla tree, decent damage and some affinity, farmable quickly and easily in high rank, and the Sleep lets you set up Mighty Swing wake up hits for a ton of damage, or at least give you more practice lining up your Mighty Swing wake up hits properly as you learn how to space it. For gunlance specifically, which has some different skill priorities, I am a big fan of a Jarikon for early high rank as long as you like wide shelling, solid sharpness, damage, blast as a bonus, and 2 load shells and 1 offensive guard as the skills on it are pretty good too. As for the ranged weapons, Rathian light bowgun and bow are not only super solid but are fantastic pierce specific weapons, which is great for a large amount of more difficult fights that exist too. And then for heavy bowgun, a solid starter high rank option is Kongolala for pierce specifically, and you get better options for different ammo types as you go, but most of them require monsters you won't be able to farm right at the start. That said, every weapon's best choices evolve in their own way as you progress of course. Those are just some generally good places to start for something that will be highly functional and easily farmed right at the start of high rank, and these will easily carry you through until you find the actual weapon you properly want to farm and use in the end. And I don't generally recommend going into elements too early either, because trying to maintain like 5 different weapon types before you've even just progressed your HR is going to be very difficult to do, and some better stuff might unlock later on. That said, moving on to armor then, we're going to go over various stages of high rank progression, and it's worth noting that lots of people have just sort of busted through a bunch of early high rank stuff while still wearing their end of low rank armor, so you don't need to swap here immediately, but if you want to do some more farming, if you want some more power, a really great early starting setup of high rank armor is the Balakchi Alpha Helmet for 1 weakness exploit farmable from high rank small monsters that are found in the Windward Plains, the Talioth Alpha Gloves for 1 burst for some offensive increase when you hit multiple times within a 3 to 4 second window, as well as Leap of Faith on this too, which lets you do the dive evade even when facing monsters, and these are also just a small monster in the Windward Plains. Burst is a really solid skill
that I generally recommend for every weapon except for maybe greatsword, and so instead for greatsword I would recommend the Yonkutku Alpha Gloves for the 1 agitator and a 1 slot. This also gets you 1 constitution as a bonus 2 for the stamina hungrier weapons. For your waist, I also recommend Yonkutku, and whether you do alpha or beta depends on your goals. You get 1 agitator either way for some bonus attack and affinity gained against enraged monsters, but then you either get 2 recovery up and no slots or 1 recovery up and a 1 slot. I generally recommend using the beta if you have anything particular that you'd like to use for 1 slot decorations, which this early would either be stamina management or maybe divine protection. Then for most people I recommend Congalala Alpha Chest, mainly for another 1 burst, and then Congalala Beta Legs for 1 burst and a 2 slot for your decorations as well. Overall, with Talioth Gloves, this would give you 3 burst, 1 weakness exploit, and 1 agitator as your split of offensive skills, which is pretty solid to start with. If you, again, are using greatsword or just otherwise don't want to rely on burst as an offensive skill, I instead recommend Alpha Chatacabra Chest for 1 weakness exploit and 1 speed eating for some convenience too, and then Beta Chatacabra Legs for 1 weakness exploit and a 1 slot for your decorations. The non-burst variation, then Balakshi Goggles, Chatacabra Chest and Legs, Yonkutku Gloves and Waist, would give you 3 weakness exploit and 2 agitator, which is a reasonable amount of extra crit chance in general, and then an extra pop of it with some attack bonus too whenever a monster is enraged. There are, however, some alternatives worth mentioning too, just for the sake of it. Hirabami Waist is grabbable super early in high rank, and this has 2 evade window on the alpha, which is really good for any more like evade heavy weapons, like dual blades especially, or even bow. And an important note is the commission set. This is technically able to be unlocked the moment that you hit high rank, as it shows up at the smithy once you find the commission ticket item. This item can be sold by Santiago in the Windward Plains base camp when he shows up with the support ship. This comes by in cycles, and you can rest in your tent to make time progress. Rest around 4 times and the ship will disappear, 4 or so more times and he will reappear with a new set of items. One of the items that he can sell you each time he shows up is the commission ticket. This is something that you can straight up farm as soon as you unlock the rest system and support ship, but it requires either a ton of luck or a large amount of research points. The armor itself is fantastic for early high rank if you find yourself able to make it. 5 agitator, divine blessings, and quick sheath, and even a rank of maximum might too, but you need 5 commission tickets to make the whole set, and personally I spent about 10,000 research points on repeated rests just to make one of these tickets show up. So I have to mention this set and method because it is entirely possible that you could get really lucky and find these tickets early and make some of the set early on, and if you can, it is great for early high rank, but it's entirely RNG based with rests and you might not want to bother with that. Moving on then, when you hit HR 20 and do the main story quest that unlock at that point, you will regain access to the 5th map and the monsters that live there within high rank. This of course includes Guardian Ebnio Dogoron, who has an absolutely banging set for anyone who likes burst as a skill, which again, as far as I'm concerned, is like every weapon except maybe greatsword. And this set is the thing that makes it also sort of include greatsword, at least for now. Specifically, the beta helmet is 2 burst and a 2 slot, the alpha gloves are 2 burst and 1 divine blessing, the beta waist is 1 burst, a 2 slot, and a 1 slot, and then the beta legs are 1 divine blessing, 1 earplugs, a 2 slot, and a 1 slot, but these contribute to the overall set bonus burst boost. Overall, this will give you 5 burst, 2 divine blessing, 3 2 slots for decorations, and 2 1 slots as well, and then of course the full 4 set bonus burst boost 2. What the set bonus does is give you increased attack when at the full burst bonus, which is getting 5 or more hits without dropping the buff, which you can track above your health bar with the short timer. As well, the 2 set burst bonus increases the window before it resets here by 1 second, and the 4 set bonus adds a further second onto the length as well, making it like 5 seconds between attacks before the buff falls off, which is actually really easy to maintain in most situations with every weapon, including even greatsword. But that's only 4 pieces of your armor still, and then you can bring in Guardian Rathalos Beta chest piece for 1 weakness exploit and a 2 slot, which is quite solid. Or for more dodge heavy weapons, regular Rathalos Beta chest is 2 adrenaline rush and 2 1 slots for stamina management, or the third option of chest piece, Ajarakan Beta, has 2 resentment for bonus damage when you have red health, which is especially good for weapons like greatsword, and it also has a 2 slot decoration socket too. Any one of those 3 chests will fit perfectly depending on your weapon type and what you're looking for. At HR 31, you will hit another story mission unlock, and some other armor will become available to you at this point too, for now just being the armor for each of the Apex monsters in high rank. This doesn't change too much as burst, and the burst set is really strong, but mostly if you just really hate playing around burst, the new Udra set is pretty solid for something like greatsword or weapons that guard or guard point frequently with full resentment and counter strike, and it keeps a touch of burst as well, just because, I mean, why not? After you've then dealt with the Apex Monster story quests, you will also get a new monster unlock. I don't want to spoil for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, so this is your chance to look away if you have not yet reached this point in the game. For those who are staying then, however, this is Gore Magala armor, and this shit is just silly. The actual skills on it are mostly evade based and stamina management, but it's the set bonuses, then the new skill antivirus that makes this an exceptional armor bonus. The 2 set bonus makes it so you occasionally put frenzy on yourself when fighting large monsters, which may sound like a negative, but when you clear your frenzy debuff, you innately gain 15% bonus affinity. That's just how frenzy works, which is actually a really solid chunk in itself. But then you add in the antivirus skill. This skill makes it easier to clear the frenzy when inflicted, which is already a solid bonus, but then it also gives you bonus affinity after you clear the frenzy status too. The skill reads as being 15% bonus affinity for 3 ranks active, but in practice this seems to be a typo of some kind, as when I've actually tested this in the training room, it is just 10% bonus affinity, not 15%, so this means that the combo of 2 set Gore Magala armor and 3 antivirus is worth 25% affinity together while properly active, and that is still a really solid bonus. The 4 set then has further effects, giving you raw attack while you're inflicted with the frenzy, and then also raw attack after you've cleared the frenzy. So essentially you just get a general chunk of bonus raw, which is quite nice too. And all of this is just a fancy way of saying if you have good offensive decorations to stick inside of the sockets, Gore Magala armor is insanely good as an offensive option for proper endgame. But it does rely heavily on you having good decorations to put in it as well, as the only offense on the actual base armor set is the antivirus and the set bonus itself. Then we reach the final armor unlocks, which are triggered after the main story quest that you get at HR 41, and after that you've reached the endgame properly. We'll go over proper endgame meta sets and some silly stuff as well, of course, for each weapon over the next week and beyond, but for now suffice it to say that the majority of optimized endgame sets will use some combination of Gore Magala and then either some of the armor unlocked at HR 41 or bits of Guardian Ebony Dogoran armor 2 for some of them. That just about does it for today then, everyone. Essentially your easy progression guide from start of high rank to the final armor unlocks and the jump to full endgame. Some recommended weapons, recommended sets with variations depending on weapon type, and different stages of upgrades that you can get as you unlock various extra functions in high rank too. Hopefully you've enjoyed this then, and if you have any other advice for hunters in this sort of section through the game, feel free to leave it in the comments down below. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.